I'm glad to be here to share about my research paper. Okay, this is the outline of my presentation. First of all, I will talk about the introduction of my research, the reason why I choose the paper, and the information you can get on my paper, and the aims of my research. And then I will talk about the journals that I found, the information that you can find on the articles. And also I will close with a conclusion on the reviewing of my articles. My topic is human papillomavirus, cervical cancer, and the prevention. Let's watch a video first.
Just a minute. What does HPV actually mean? HPV stands for human papillomavirus. Viruses that cause skin and genital warts and some cancers. In fact, it's HPV that has been identified in nearly 100% of cervical cancer cases. Anyone who's ever had sex can be affected by the HPV, even if they've been with the one partner for a long time or haven't had sex for a long time. HPV is very common. But the good news is the government has introduced an HPV vaccine, which will prevent most, but unfortunately not all, cervical cancer.
Okay, then the video shows about some information on HPV. I hope you understand. And as you know, there are 500,000 of new cases diagnosed each year, and over 300,000 deaths globally. And as the population of women increases, the cervical cancer will increase for 40% globally. To protect ourselves from HPV, we have to understand it in a more detailed way, so we can have preventional methods, like pap smear to test for cells in the cervix, DNA testing to test whether high grades HPV are existing, and finally the newly developed vaccine, and my research will mainly focus on vaccine. Aims of my research. I will suggest some behavioral prevention, like having less partners and changing your smoking habits. Also, I will compare the efficacy and other aspects of the vaccine, like the cost, the duration of protection, etc. And then I hope this research will draw the attention of the public on cervical cancer. Then I will talk about my articles. The first articles tell me the general knowledge of HPV, and also it tells us how cervical cancer induced by HPV as initiating agent. And then it shows risk factor of the cervical cancer. It is insufficient because this is an old paper, and there are more risk factors like alcoholic, etc. So, as I mentioned, it is old paper, and there is an interesting point that suggests using vaccine as a new method for prevention. And because of this, I will refer less to this part. And it suggests a new method, which is boosting our immune system to prevent the invasion of HPV cancer. The next journal talks about the effectiveness of vaccination. And it has a detailed trial flow of selection of studies, which impressed me as follows. You can see at first there are 455 case studies, and it's the selection by screening. It removed the bias, and then finally to 6 studies only. And then they compared detailedly on the 6 studies, which here's on the table. You can see the favors vaccine. And the conclusion is the vaccination is highly effective on prevention of cervical cancer. The third article provides a lot of evidence, like statistical data on how many deaths on cases like cervical cancer. And it suggests the use for the HPV vaccine. For example, what age should be vaccinated, and it recommends the prevention on the cervical cancer. And advise women should undergo regular screening, although you have breast milk. The fourth journal is comparing which is better, the screening or vaccination. They investigated this title in a socio-economical way, so it is less relevant to my research. And it compared the pros and cons of both sides, so I still use the articles. And also, it concluded that both will be beneficial to the prevention of cancer. And the last one is the reason for caution. The article showed insufficient evidence for effectiveness of the vaccination, like how will it affect others' HPV, and because of this field referencing, the credibility of the articles is limited. And also, it tells us to caution about introducing large-scale vaccination program because it might, due to economical reason, that the government introduced the vaccine. Also, it recommends us to find more research before we have the vaccination. In conclusion, the unprecedented opportunity for prevention of vaccination is introduced now, so there is an increase in uncertainties of safety issues. The lack of full explanation and long-term report is called, and so most of the assumptions are made by research analysts of others' articles. So I hope my research will give you more evidence on the cervical cancer and the prevention. And this is my reference. Thank you.